Welcome to the Beer Can Cold Podcast with your hosts Will Merritt and JG Van Gran, a podcast where the suction line is always beer can cold. Take it away, boys.
Thanks, Doug. We're back.
Thanks, Dougie.
So, dear guest, LaDonna, you don't know Doug. We hired him. We actually have a paid person in our podcast. He's an AI voice. I paid $3 for him, and it's really good. He speaks us in every week. It's a
never
fun
fails.
part. Never fails.
He doesn't talk back.
Yeah, and he says exactly what I wanted to say, and he never takes a sick day. It's perfect.
That's what I was going to say.
Right.
So welcome back, everybody. It is definitely Thursday afternoon again, and we are here with a very special guest, and I'm going to tell you guys why here in just a second, but I'm super stoked to be here. There was no travel this week, Will, right? You were just kind of local?
Rock Hill, we did a presentation for McCall's Supply.
All right, well, I'm living my travel dreams vicariously through you, my friend, because I'm no longer allowed to travel. So there's that.
Luckily, I didn't do any more. The girls went down to North Augusta today, and Dave and Jim are in Charleston tomorrow.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, before we forget, this is the Beer Can Cold Podcast. Now, we've talked about this several times that, oh dear, this is a mess, that I can't really drink at the office. So, Will, I found something. And this makes me inevitably happy because you know my love for dark beer. And I found out that my friends in Ireland at Guinness makes a 0 alcohol beer. And it tastes exactly like the real thing. And so therefore, I don't feel left out anymore. I'm so happy.
Yeah,
I love
I had a
it.
Heineken the other week, and it had the taste of it. We were at the bingo thing we do on Tuesday nights with Jackson, the music bingo, and they were coming around giving. I was like, I'll try it, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Tastes like beer, a little light.
All the taste with none of the kick.
Good. A non-alcoholic Yingling and make the black and tans. I love those.
Yeah.
Well, what's really good on what's that?
I'm sorry. Speaking of those, LaDonna, back in college, I had a friend that grew up just outside of York, Pennsylvania. And when he would go home, he would bring back a case of the darks. This is before they made the black and tans, and a case of the regular. Make them. And that was way before Yingling. Yingling didn't come out until, I guess, in the 90s sometime. This was probably late 80s, 90, maybe 91. But we were like, man, this is great. And then they came out. And so, but who doesn't love a good black and tan?
No
If
kidding.
you got beer from Pennsylvania, did you ever get Straub's? Because that's my favorite. But it's
think
hard
so.
to, yeah, it's hard to bring back. We'll get people to bring it back to us every now and then, but they don't have preservatives in it, so you have to drink them real fast.
Yeah. That's like a craft beer. It doesn't last very long, which is better for you.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
It's good though.
So I want to take a minute real quick, LaDonna, before we introduce you and just give everybody an update on Jonathan. LaDonna, I didn't tell you about Jonathan, but I'll post the feed, the GoFundMe feed right below the video here again. If anybody that can help, really, please help us. So LaDonna, we have a young man, and it's actually really in the vein of what we're talking about today because he is from the community college. He's one of the guys that we bring in, and he works for us part-time and go to school part-time. And he's an amazing young man. He's the one person that I can guarantee I'm going to get a hug from today. Right. And he's always smiled, just a very great kid, a big Polynesian kid. I'm not sure what his ethnicity is, but to me, being a rugby coach, he absolutely looks like he's from the islands. And so Jonathan, about 2 weeks ago, didn't feel well, ended up going to the urgent care. They said they couldn't help him, ended up in the hospital. And as of yesterday, he's not doing well at all. They found cancer in several places in his body. And so the family asked us to come to the hospital this morning and then visit with him again. And so, it's tough, and we're not sure what the outcome is going to be. We know the good Lord always has a plan and a purpose, and but we don't know what that's going to be. So we're praying for him, but the financial help is big with that. So we have launched the GoFundMe. I'm not sure what it's up to today, but it's really helping, and it's part of our HVAC community, and this community is amazing. So I'll pop the link in there again. If you guys can just share that with everybody, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
But since I sucked all the energy out of the room now,
It's okay.
we'll go ahead and I'm going to give you a soft introduction, but then I really want you to to introduce yourself. So I came to North Carolina many, many years ago. Actually, my daughter was born while I worked with LaDonna at Airmakers, and she's now graduating high school. That's when we met, and I worked for LaDonna's dad, Steve Lowe. And is it Logue or Lowe?
Logue, just like Vogue, but with an L.
That's right. I didn't think the G was silent. But we were in the trenches for a while together, and I became really good friends with LaDonna and her sister Courtney, and we chat often, and it's just a really good thing. But LaDonna took this industry and made it her own, and I'm going to tell you guys, she's not going to tell you half the things she really does, but I know there's something in there about an engineering degree. There's things in there that she will read a set of commercial plans better than anybody I know, and she will pull anything out of there that you need her to pull out. So she's an amazing person. But currently, you're with Airmakers, and there's been some changes, right? Dad retired, but you and Courtney are still there. And so I'll give you the opportunity. Just introduce yourself.
Yeah. So just a little really quick anecdote is that when I was young, I told my dad I wanted to go into HVAC, and he was like, "No, you don't. You're just doing it for me." You know, like any really good dad, he thought that I was just trying to make him happy. And I was like, "Dad, I really want to do it." And he's like, "No, you don't." I was like, and so he sent me to college to do something else. And so, but prior to that, you know, as a teenager, I had started working in the warehouse doing inventory and service vans. I mean, I was covered in dirt from head to toe. And I would go to the part supply houses with my basket, and I would restock, you know, the service vans with the capacitors and everything. And that's, you know, one of my first jobs. And then went to college, did public relations for 2 years, came back, said, "Dad, I don't want to do this. I want to do HVAC." And he was like, "Okay." And he brought me back in. I went back to school again, got mechanical engineering. I'm not a PE, but I do have a mechanical engineering degree. And then he just really started training me in what he did. And then ended up now I've got both. Yeah.
It was a lot.
And now I've got both my licenses, the H2 and the H3, and I am currently working towards my specialty electrical and the new ASHRAE certified HVAC designer.
That's awesome.
License.
Well done. Congratulations on all that. That's amazing. And as a dad of a daughter that also, she wants nothing to do with heating and air, but I have this vision. So I'm just so, you know, I always tell her, I said, "Man, Miss LaDonna can do it. What's up with you?" Right? So it's a big deal, but thank you. So today, the reason I asked you to come on the podcast is there's something we're going to talk about today that's really near to my heart. And I know that's something that you've taken up the torch on that and really run with it. And it's how do we get youth into this industry? I've made this comment several times about this industry picked me. I didn't pick it, but thank goodness it did, right? And so now how, with the labor shortages and the things where we can't really find good technicians because they are somewhere working normally. And so how do you fill in your labor force? And then you start getting into this whole conversation, which we've covered on this podcast several times about, do you hire from the industry? Don't you? Right. And so you have recognized that with Airmakers. You guys are like us. You're pretty large. And so you had to go and find employees. And so I'll just tee it up for you there.
Yeah. So this whole journey started during COVID because, you know, people were getting paid a lot of money to stay at home. Yep. And we couldn't find people, but we were essential workers. So we still had to run crews. And we had a couple people. The one that comes to mind right away is Zach. And he really didn't know what he wanted to do, but he wanted a career path and he didn't want to go to school. So we brought him in and put him under the tutelage of one of our really amazing mechanics, which is Mario Farnez, who was exceptional.
I remember Mario.
And Mario trained him from the ground up. And then within 2 years, Zach was leading his own crew. And he is one of our best ones now and has come full circle and is now mentoring new apprentices. Mm-hmm. And that was really what started it. And then once we got through that whole period, we kind of realized, you know, we have a niche for this. Like, our mechanics are exceptional teachers. Mm-hmm. I mean, they are not only really good at their craft, but they're very good at training. And so why are we not using this? So I reached out to Wait Tech. was the first part that I reached out to. And I was like, how can I recruit from your school? I didn't even know apprenticeships was even like a viable option yet. I just said, how can I recruit from your school? I've got excellent mechanics. They're willing to train. I'll hire them right out of graduation. Mm-hmm. And I spoke to John Warwick, who is fantastic. He's been with me through the start of all of this. He's with Wake Tech. And he said, well, have you looked into the apprenticeship program? And he really walked me through it. And so that was our start. And then we now have not only the Wake Tech program, we now have our own registered apprenticeship program with Apprenticeship North Carolina. So we can pull from any community college in the entire state. Nice. And then we're also working with Apprenticeship North Carolina. So the way apprentices are set up is you have to have related instruction and then on-the-job training. And you have to have a certain amount of hours for each to complete to satisfy the demand to become a journey worker. So we're now working to come up with our own core program of related instruction that we can offer in-house if a kid can't go to school for whatever reason based off of proximity, finances, or so on. So it's really expanded, and it's been phenomenal to watch it happen.
Have you seen an uptick in your KPIs?
Yeah, hands down. And the thing is like these guys that we've brought on are so eager and just happy to have somebody believe in them and give them an opportunity, because it's such a mutual respect for each other. It's like, we respect that they're coming in here and how hard they're working and the fact that they're really giving us their dedication and their time to learn. And then they have such a mutual affection and respect for us because we're providing them with the opportunity. And so I really believe that's the driving factor wholeheartedly, because I can tell you with 100% certainty, I do the KPIs every month. And my highest performers consistently are these brand new out of school technicians.
We're seeing
every month.
They don't know bad habits.
That's right.
No.
They don't have any learned bad habits from other places. And that's why you're doing it.
And that personality and them being happy to be at work it radiates to the customer, quite honestly, because a customer is going to be more accepting and willing to purchase a service agreement or to purchase an upgrade from somebody that's just happy to be there and happy to take the time to explain it than, a burned out technician that just wants to go home.
Yeah. Yep. I want to throw this in there just quickly because I do feel like we talk about this topic often and we are very encouraging of hiring from outside the industry. I don't have anything against hiring a tech that has experience. Actually, right now I'm looking for 6 of them. And the reason is our program here with hiring these young guys in is about a year and a half old, and we need some time for it to start snowballing. So I have nothing against hiring, but it's harder and harder to find people that are just presentable, sober, and have the technical abilities, right? And I'm not cracking on the industry. I'm just saying that it's really hard to find. And if we don't generate them ourselves, we're not going to find them. But the other piece to this is that I thought about the other day is with us doing this, we're raising the tide that raises all ships, right? So we're raising the industry level because we're bringing these kids in the right way. And listen, if they don't stay with me after I educate them, I understand it. It's not a big deal. I would like to hold on to them, but we're raising the industry.
But the thing is, JG, it's even the fact that you just have to have that balance because bottom line is the younger kids or the younger generation is going to bring the energy that you need, but you still need the older technician that has the wisdom because the reality is we're in a whole new world now where you've got a mixture of legacy equipment with older refrigerant that these new kids have never seen. And then you've got the new kids that are only brought up on the new refrigerant. And at this point, if your workforce isn't a happy medium of them both, you're really just not going to be successful.
Right.
You have to have both elements and you have to work together seamlessly. And you have to respect both sides of the party and understand that they both have great value.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The presentation yesterday, I talked about the Beer Can Cold podcast.
Nice.
And I said, raise your hand if you know what that means. And there were a lot of younger people, and then they had these looks on their face. And then, of course, the older generations, they're all laughing. And so I explained it, and they were like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I explained it to our team when we started this, and, they didn't know. They're, a couple of them, learned a ton about HVAC over the years, but that's just an old term, slang term, beer can cold. And so, had to explain it to them.
No,
It is just, it's everything. I mean, it's even the tools of the trade now. You've got the digital gauges or, the old school analog. And it's like, you're going to have different walks of life, and everybody's going to have their own ways that they're accustomed to, but it will never fail that you're going to need one or the other on one type of job. So you have to have both available.
That's
in
true.
That regard. I
mean, look at today's technician, right? Today's perfect technician, 30 to 35, computer literate, cell phone literate, CRM literate. That's before he even touches a gauge, before he touches anything else. You need him to be able to communicate properly, need him to be able to type properly, write up invoices on a tablet, understand the CRM piece of it, understand the technology piece. And then on top of it, now you got to teach him old school, like you said, and then you got things that we're plugging computers into now to see if they're working right. So it's this whole thing, to your point, but we're finding here that bringing in the younger energy into the company, we don't have very many older guys here. A couple of guys that's been here for a while, and it's great employees. But bringing that younger energy completely changes the thing here. But I will tell you what I'm finding a little bit. What I loved about my older crew is they come to work at 6, they go home when the work is done. This newer generation, man, it's 5:00. And by the way, I need 2 weeks of vacation during the summer.
But that's where the importance of a really good mentor is just. That's what you need, because it's an apprentice is only going to be as good as his mentor, hands down. And if you have somebody that either doesn't want to teach or wants to teach bad habits, to your credit, Will, what you were saying earlier, that's just not going to help anybody. And we've been really fortunate that we have some really great mentors, and a lot of them surprised me, honestly, with how good they turned out. And not implying that I thought that they would be less than, but I was not sure of their enthusiasm in being a teacher, because it can be, exhausting at times. You have to have a lot of patience. You have to.
A lot of patience.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, these guys have just really stepped up to the plate and have blown us away, to the point where the guys that I thought were going to be the most hesitant have already come to me and they're like, hey, when do I get another one? Like mine already graduated. Give me another one. So it's so important that you have that good mentor, because the whole system falls apart if you don't.
Yeah. And I think some people, they may not realize how much they may enjoy that. They've got a wealth of skills and knowledge, and now, hey, I can pass this down to some, especially if someone, like you're saying, is eager and willing to learn. And they're just, I'm sure they love it. They're going like, God, this person here is great. They're absorbing everything I'm giving them. They're a sponge. So I guarantee they love it.
And it gives them a renewed sense of purpose. I mean, not implying that they, don't have that, but when you come in and your responsibility is to make this person ready for their career, their entire future. And then this apprentice is successful, and they come back to you and they're like, I am what I am because of you. I mean, how rewarding is that?
Yeah.
And, and just to kind of expand, so we recently had we went out to Wake Tech, and I represented the HVAC trade to high school students. And a lot of those students, and again, this is why I kind of got into pushing the trade so much, is that there's been such a stigma up until this point, where 4-year degree, 4-year university, you have to do this. Trades are, not lucrative. And it's just really gotten to where we have a shortage now in the labor trade. And So what's happening is there's a lot of high schoolers, especially those in maybe some of the lower income areas where they can't either financially afford school or academically can't go to school, and they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so I went out to this event. It's fantastic. I've done it 3 times. It's the ACE Mentor Program of Raleigh-Durham, if you guys haven't heard about it.
Okay.
And they bring high school students in, and they have various trades. And we represent HVAC. They've got plumbers, welders, and so on. And these high schoolers have the opportunity to go to each booth, and they do a little hands-on activity, and they learn more about the trade, and we answer questions. And it's a great chance for us Airmakers to talk about our apprenticeship program. All of this to say, you guys, I had a student who came by the booth, talked to me about 3 different times. He would walk away. I was giving out airheads. Get it? You like my pun? Airheads.
I love it. So does my son.
So he came back and he would get airheads every time. And then before he left, he came back and he was like, "Do you mind if I give you a hug?" And I was like, "No." And he said, and he hugged me, and he hugged me so tight. And he said, "I had no idea what I was doing after high school till I talked to you."
Yeah.
And y'all, that just made my entire day. That was worth it.
I'm telling you that this whole college thing is dying, and let me tell you why.
Yeah.
So a big part of a couple of years ago, over a couple of beers, me and the buddy that runs the rugby club, you met him, Pat. We're sitting there and talking about all these academies, all these things that's popping up, and how much we're starting not to enjoy doing what we're doing because everything is about winning, and it's just not it. And we made a pact that we're going to stop focusing on state championships, and we're going to start focusing on getting kids to college. So, and I need to go sit down because I think, I'm coming kind of towards the end of my tenure as a coach, but I want to go back and look at the math. But I think 3 or 4 years ago, we were at 167 seniors who came through our program in a span of about 8 or 9 years. No, actually less than that, because we didn't, like 6 or 7 years. And we have sent, I think, 45 of them to college. And out of the 45, 27 was playing rugby for money. And this is before the girls program took off. So I came in, took the girls program over from a pretty good coach, and we moved forward with that. And last year we had 9 seniors. All 9 of those girls went to college, play rugby, and 6 of them were on scholarship. This year we have 10 seniors, and there's less, because 2 or 3 of my girls said, "No, we're going in the trades." One of them wants to become an electrician. I was trying to get her to come work for us. But on the boys' side, we see even more, because college is great, but then you find out, I can play rugby at the local men's club, and I can learn a trade. And by the way, Grayson, Grayson, my son, he bought his first car cash yesterday. Right? He's been in a truck for a year. And so the kids starting to understand this college thing is not what it's cracked up to be, because my oldest is graduating and he has a lot of bills to pay. Right. And so it's a thing. And I think over the years, it's going to start changing. Plus all tuitions has gone up. I think the other day I heard something like Duke is like $85,000 a year now or something. That's
Which is
insane.
where McKinsey wants to go.
Oh,
Scholarship. Well, I think it's multi-layered, multi-generational.
Yeah.
And I growing up, I knew you're going to college. I made pretty decent grades, LaDonna, and it was back then in 1988 when I came to UNC Charlotte. "Hey, come on down, you're in."
Mm-hmm.
I got accepted to, I think, Chapel Hill. I think I applied there, Appalachian, and Charlotte. But anyway, that's just what you were kind of taught to do, and it was a given type of thing. And then I think if that's the way it went for many years. And then I think something started to change, that the jobs or the curriculum did not translate to what the jobs were going to be. So the degree you're getting, did it translate to a real world career?
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think that question's been asked, but I think you got to peel it back even further than that. It's parents too. It's like, well, my kid's going to Clemson. Mm-hmm. My kid's going to Chapel Hill. It's kind of a status type thing.
Yeah.
And maybe it's maybe like, well, my kid's, he's not going to college, or she's not going to college.
Yeah.
And they're looking to go into the trades. And I mean, I just think about, like Mike Rowe, he's a big advocate of the trades. You see him constantly advocating for it, but think about like his show, Dirty Jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A lot of times it's a dirty job, but there's so many great things about it. Like you said, you can make great money, You're always going to be needed. It's very, very technical now. It's so much technical stuff. The equipment now, it's like a car.
Yeah.
You plug into it, analyze what's going on with it versus the old days of, manually doing stuff. But I think that's where it's gone. Like, JG, our old boss, Jeff Burris, used to talk about, they would go to the high schools and talk to the guidance counselor about, our industry, and the guidance counselor, he doesn't know, like he said, an HVAC technician's making more than a high school guidance counselor is by far, so they're like, go to college. Well, there's nothing wrong with going to college, but, again, we're in a business that we're always going to have a job. Always. If you're good at what you do and enjoy it, you're always going to have a job.
Yep.
This is just a fun story too, talking about getting girls into trades, which, by the way, I have my women in HVAC cup of water over here because I am trying my hardest to really push females in it as well. Like, I'm always pulling the girls.
Are you a member?
We're a member.
You remember?
Our company is.
We went last year. I was
a couple of our people went.
Yeah, I was at trade show last year.
Last year, excuse me.
Like, y'all, this is not just for boys. Like, let me talk to you. But my dad, again, I love telling you stories about my dad because he is absolutely my hero and the greatest person I have ever known. And he was like, okay, well, if you're doing this, you have to be willing to get into a crawl space. Like, I'm not going to let you do this unless you're willing, right?
Yep.
And I was like, okay. And so I did. I had to help him change an evaporator coil in a crawl space before he would let me get into it. And I sure did. And now, granted, it was a sealed crawl space. It was beautiful. So I didn't get very dirty, but I have done it. And then when I go to job sites now, I make a point. If my guys are out there in a crawl space, I will get in that crawl space and I will be, if I'm on the job site, because I am not going to shy away from it. This is my job. If you can do it, I can do it. And, but the bulk of my work is in an office, but I still got to prove to them that I'm willing to do it if I want,
Well, it's fun too to get out there and get in the mix a little bit, so to speak. So.
Oh yeah.
No, absolutely.
And I don't ever want them to look at me having a cushion job. I'm like, granted I do because I sit in my office and stare at house plans the majority of the day, but I am still willing.
That's right.
Well, it's fun to have a little variety, LaDonna, get out.
Yeah.
I was, JG and I, like in our careers for a long time, we were salespeople. So we were out and about. We were in your office, this customer's office. I was all over town. And then we used to see clients more regularly, but when COVID happened, we went to Zoom.
I hate it. I hated it.
And I still love going to see somebody in person because I like shaking the hand. I like walking into business and hear what it sounds like. How are the phones ringing? What's going on? But so much business is done like this today. And it is nice working from home, but I got to get out sometimes.
That's right. Although
let's have a lunch today. I want to meet. Let's talk about things. I want to come to your office.
I'm now the curmudgeonly old operations manager that said, "Get out of my office. I don't want to talk to you if you're selling me. Make an appointment." So no, I'm just kidding. Everybody, and actually, that's funny here because the owners don't really want to talk to salespeople, but me, I've lived that life. So I'm like, come on, man, I'll give you 5 minutes. Come on in. And I've been thrown out of enough businesses, so I get it. But I just want to circle back to one thing, and I want to put this in the atmosphere. If Mike Rowe ever wants to come on this podcast, that'll be a top 10 bucket list item for me. So I'm going to tag him in this podcast, see if he sees it. Oh, it'd be awesome.
I think he would. I mean, again, LaDonna, everyone I speak to, I met a guy that he does software for the business yesterday, and I'll give him a little hats off here. Marty, guy's car, Marty Gildemeyer. It's a company, Praxis. They're down out of Atlanta, but it's a software. And he came up to me. He's like, Will, I want to be on your podcast. First thing he said to me, I was like, that's great. We'd love to have you on there. But he was, you could tell he was very passionate about what he does. And he's showing these guys, you really got to cover all these things in your proposals. And there's no more of like, here's a cash price, and here's a credit card price, and here's a finance price. It's one price type of thing. And about building in so they can make money, so that, like he said, so you can buy tools, you can buy new vans, you can bonus your employees. You've got to do that stuff. You take all this negotiation out. But yeah, I think JG, again, we're just having fun.
Any day of the week.
He'd be a great guest.
So I just want to circle back to one thing really quickly because we do the same thing now. So we don't do it on your scale, and I want to hook up with you more and find out if there's maybe a way that we can help each other and work more into what you're doing. But we work with Alamance Community College, and the reason we do so is because the owners of this company graduated from there, and they're friends with those people. But Alamance will put on job fairs. We'll go set up a table. We'll always walk away with one or two guys coming to work for us. But how does your process work from there? So you bring these young men and women in, you have them apprentice. Then when does the hiring, how do you suss them out? Like, for example, here, we would sit them down before we hire them. They take a disc because we want to understand how they think. There's a certain type of individual that fits in here. And then from there, we get them to a point of getting maintenances done by themselves.
Yes.
And then we start sussing out if they're going to make it or not. And actually, our crop right now, out of 6 of them, I think all of them are doing really well. So how does your hiring process look from there?
It's the same way because, I can't teach somebody how to be a decent person, and I can't teach somebody how to have enthusiasm about what they do.
Yeah.
I always tell people when I'm, out at these events, I would rather hire you knowing nothing and you have a good attitude and a willingness to learn than for you to come in here and you know everything, but then you're unwilling to work with, your coworkers. I mean, it's so much about personality. So a lot of the events is just having a conversation. A lot of times I try to go to all of them personally, first of all, because this is kind of my pet project and it just means the world to me. But I've done various things where I've brought in install supervisors with me, because ultimately that's who they'll work with. But I'll tell you what I've started doing, and it has been the best so far. I've started taking my apprentice graduates and I take them with me. And I will tell you, if you ever want to know how you're doing as a company or how somebody feels about your company, take them to one of these events, because those guys go out there and they will be the first ones to say, man, this is the best decision I ever made. This is a great company. This is what you need to do. So I've started doing that, and that's been the most successful of all. So we kind of tag team it, and I'll have them speak to them one-on-one about, their experience and what it's like working for the company and what it's like being an HVAC. And then if they've expressed a certain level of interest, then my guys will bring them over to me. And then I start talking about the apprenticeship program. Yeah. And the way the apprenticeship program works. So with Apprenticeship North Carolina, so you can do it one of two ways to answer your question. With Apprenticeship North Carolina is typically within, I believe it's 120 days of their high school graduation. They would have to register as a pre-apprentice to get tuition assistance with the state of North Carolina. Yep. And then you would have to have a registered institution that can do the related instruction, which Alamance County would have. And they have a set amount of hours. And then you would have to have a registered company that can provide on-the-job training, which would be, us. And then it's really just a matter of the registration and doing quarterly check-ins. We have a competency checklist that both the mentee or the apprentice has to fill out. It's about 4 pages. If you don't have one, JG, I'll send you mine so you can compare it.
Sure.
And it's itemized things that we are committing to our apprentice that we will teach them. Yeah. And so we give it to them quarterly, and they will initial that they feel they have successfully learned that task. But then their mentor has to go behind them and confirm that they feel they have mastered that task.
That's good.
And then once they get to completion, then they graduate from the program. Wake Tech's process is a little bit more simpler in the sense that the best thing that they can do is find an employer and then register with Wake Tech almost simultaneously, because if you are hired as an apprentice with an employer with the Wake Works program, and then you join their Wake Works program, then they get tuition assistance right away.
That's good.
And then Wake Tech really has a great program where they help with books, tools. I'll be honest, Wake Works has an exceptional program. They're really doing it right. They're really easy to work with. And I think that there's a lot of schools that are following suit with it. They're just not quite there yet, which is why we've established our own with Apprenticeship North Carolina.
That's really good. So, and you may not know the answer, and it's okay if you don't, because I can find the answer. But I know that ESCO got really involved with community colleges, and most of these colleges are ESCO authorized teaching centers. And so a lot of times when the kids get out of the community college, they're also ESCO certified as a HVAC master tech or whatever it is. It's the same equivalent as NATE. Have you run across that?
No, the apprenticeship programs that we do, they would be a certified journey worker from the Department of Labor with North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we offer, because that's one of my hats that I wear. I'm also a NATE proctor. So
am
we
I.
help them get their NATE certification once they're employed with us, but they don't usually come with it.
Yeah,
the majority do come with the EPA certification, though.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think so. I switched, nothing against NATE. We just switched to ESCO. It's a similar thing, but I have 6 ESCO proctors in the building. And so the other day, and this cost us some money, but you don't have to have everybody A2L certified. And we said, no, not here. So even our Hispanic crews came in, we got the courses in Spanish, and all our technicians A2L certified, installers, helpers, everybody. We thought it was important, but that's the thing is doing this other stuff, because here, to your point of what you guys are doing with your curriculum, we're trying to create Bohr Brothers University here. We're sussing it out slowly. We're not launched yet, but to a place where we're even wanting to get to a point where if we don't get them from the community college, that we can get them out of high school, bring them in, like you said, and coach them up. But then we want to do it in such a way that if smaller companies around us have employees that they would like coached and trained up, that we would do it here. We would sign a non-compete. We're not going to hire your employees, but create a training center in our area to actually just elevate the industry as a whole. So that's a long-term dream of ours, of mine.
Oh, yeah.
We have a new location in Cary, and we have a pretty large warehouse there, and I think that maybe that'll become the place. But then my dream is to also build a pseudo inside house with a kitchen and do the soft skills and sales training as well. How do we talk at the kitchen table? How do we do those things? So that's eventually, I think, the plan. That's a couple of years down the road, but that's where we want to get to.
And I will tell you, touching on the non-compete side of things, the thing is that what a lot of people don't realize with the apprenticeship program, you're locking in that employee for the duration of their apprenticeship program. So you're almost guaranteed that employee's loyalty for 3 to 4 years. Yeah. And in 3 to 4 years, you can turn that individual into a family member and someone that is as loyal to your company as you are to them. You know what I mean? And it's just, so at that point, it's like, I understand that they're not going to stay with us forever. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, you're not a hostage. Now, I would be very upset if you left, but you are not a hostage. But, and I tell them, I had this conversation with them just the other day. I was like, there's going to come a time where you're going to leave. And I get that, because you came to us at a very young age. You didn't sample the waters. You're always going to go and want to see what is out there. And I get that, and I understand it. The only thing I ask of you is to understand that Airmakers, and JG, this always has an open door policy if you leave on good terms.
Oh, yeah.
So if you leave on good terms, you can come back, and probably 80% of them come back at some point, as long as you have that mentality. But I find that, especially with the apprentices, you're just establishing such a sense of mutual loyalty, because you're giving so much to each other, and there's really just, I don't worry about it as much, because they genuinely feel bad leaving because you gave them such an opportunity. And as long as you have that family atmosphere where you're like, look, we're so proud of you. If you go out, we're going to be proud of you. We're going to hate to see you go, but we're proud that you can do it and stand on your own 2 feet. But hey, by the way, if you want to come back, you can come back. Yeah. And as long as you have that, it makes it all worth it. I'm happy to say that every single apprentice that we've had so far has been hired full time, excluding one that went to work for a family member. And I'm not even mad about it.
Yeah.
But every single one that we've done has turned into an offer of full time employment, and they decided to stay. Now, I don't know how long. I'm going to hold them as tight as I can because they're like my first children. But they're right now they're holding strong, and I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud.
No, it's good.
So guess where we're rounding back to the C word.
Culture.
Yep.
Listen, it comes up in every podcast. Culture.
We should
it sounds like y'all have a great culture.
They do.
That's what it's about.
Where's my Airmakers tattoo? Like with a brand. You guys branded. Where was it? Was it on my butt? I can't remember.
Oh boy.
No, some of
yours is on your left cheek. Mine's on my right.
That's right. Some of my favorite heating and air working memories was at Airmakers, and it all came from ownership down was the culture, man, and it was good. And yes, I always gladly say this. One of the only two companies I ever got fired from, but it helped me use the trajectory of that better, right? And I screwed up. Like I just couldn't.
If I remember correctly, I cried real tears too.
We did. I cried too. We cried together. Your dad hugged me. It was a mutual understanding. But I came from ARS where you're a salesman, you hand in a job packet and you walk away, to an atmosphere where you had to lay the job out front to back. And I think the final straw was the third time I sent out an April Air Zone board to a Honeywell Zone job. And they were like, guys, this is not working out. So it was good. That taught me that I needed to get better at my craft, and I did. But I've always had a real soft spot for Airmakers in my heart. I know that I'm welcome back there, so it's okay, even though I was fired.
Well, just like, I always say, if anything, if Airmakers or the corporate office ever decides that I'm no longer worth whatever they put into me, I've got a handful of people that are the first people I call, and guess who's one of them?
Yes, we're in. We got it. So I do want to give an update real quick on something we talked about another podcast that's in this vein.
Yeah.
Is we did join the Trade Warriors program through Train. LaDonna, I don't know if you know about this program, but as a Train dealer, we have the opportunity to partner with the military forces. And what they do is they take guys that's getting ready to retire out of the military, they teach them this trade for 8 weeks, and then they if somebody were to be moving back to the Chapel Hill area, we get an email and we get to interview the candidates. And the only and I think that if you're listening to this podcast and you're interested in it, you should reach out to your Train TM and ask him about it. But I think it's the same thing. We're talking the same language here. Some kids coming from the community college, but these guys coming from the military background. And the good I've heard was you have somebody that's on time for work, has great work ethic, all these other things, and you teach them the trade. So we're excited. We got involved with this program last week. We sat through a really good presentation. If I can remember correctly, there's 2 training locations, one in Texas and one at Fayetteville. And so I think we've talked about maybe getting in touch with him and going down there and doing a podcast. But it's a great program, and I'm pretty excited.
Agreed to be on.
Yeah,
you had the idea of doing it down at Fort Bragg, so we can find out. I can reach out and ask. But sounds like a great program.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so we're waiting. I'm hoping to, like I said, I'm in need of 6 technicians, and so they very upfront and honest about it. They said, listen, this is not the type of situation where you get this guy and you slam him right in the truck and have him go bill, right? This is it's still an apprenticeship program to a degree, but they come out and they are very competent technically, and then the military screens them very heavily. They suss out a lot of the guys that just want to get out there to get out of carpool duty or whatever. They make sure that these guys really want to do heat and air, and then they kind of bring them through the program, and then they help them get hired. And you have no obligation to hire, and you don't have a financial obligation until after they're hired. There's a fee, and I don't feel it's my place to discuss any of that, but there is a small, in my opinion, a fairly small fee, and there are some changes going in there that you would then pay Train, but you don't pay them until 90 days after. So they make sure that it's a good fit for both people. And so we're pretty excited about that piece of it too. And
That's awesome.
so I'll get you the information. I know you guys probably do some trains still. You probably can get involved. Yeah. And there's no obligation. You just tell them you want to be a part of it, and it becomes a thing. So,
and honestly, any opportunity to give back to the people that serve our country is, of course, a great thing.
Yeah, we're really excited. We have a guy here, our top technician is young guy, and he's out of the military. And I'll tell you, man, you can see it every day. Like, the ticket's perfect. Like, his work ethic, the way he helps and coach the other guys. We had a technician we had a little bit of an issue with. He took him aside. Nobody asked him to. Took him aside. He's like, man, let me help you, right? And so it's been an amazing journey with that. And so we're hoping. I'm hoping. I know there's one of the companies real close to us, a large company. I think he's up to 4 or 5 guys in his service department now, military guys, and he raves. Really? He's like, they're the best technicians I have.
I'll tell you, when you find a system that works, it will grow swiftly, and word gets out, which is amazing. I mean, similar to you, we started out with 1, and I think we're up to 12 now. Yep. And it'll move swiftly, but good moves, or I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Good news travels fast. I was waiting for my phrase. And a lot of times, especially, which is probably the same with those military veterans, is that, if they hear about somebody that's willing to give a chance and willing to give them an opportunity, and then they start telling their buddy about it, and then the buddy reaches out, and it's just a domino effect. Yep. And it will grow, as long as you have somebody that's in it, that's enthusiastic, and you're believing in them and giving them a shot, and then they'll do all your publicity for you there.
No, I agree with you.
100%.
So, Will, you whispered something in my ear, to switch gears real quick, before we started this podcast, and that's my other love language, and you know that. We have we thrown down together yet? Have we cooked together yet? I don't think so. You cooked for me last time.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I love to grill, LaDonna. I mean, I like to cook, period. I have a beer can chicken in the oven.
I love that.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. It's easy. I got it in at 265 right now. We'll cook it for 2 hours. I'll probably turn the heat up a little bit, but yeah, we're going to
go ahead.
We're going to do a cooking podcast at some point live.
Yep.
I make homemade pasta from scratch and sourdough bread, so nice. I can do that.
Okay. I love bread. Let me, since I'm going to be here till 9 o'clock tonight editing, let me show you what I have for dinner.
Oh, come on.
So
you don't have any beef jerky or anything hanging around?
There's a grill right outside the window, and I didn't have time to grab something and put it together. But no, I definitely, I think there should be plenty of cooking podcasts, because that's one of my love languages. And LaDonna, you've been in my garage.
Yeah. I'm waiting for my second invitation.
Yeah, it's always open.
I've never been. I've seen pictures, LaDonna.
Yes.
It's so nice.
Yep. So
it's really
I've seen.
It needs a deep clean, and the kegerator is empty. So we all have our problems. Okay. I'm just saying.
Well, I think what we really need is an on-site podcast in the garage is what we need, with the tap and everything.
Done. I think so.
Absolutely.
I definitely, we're going to make that happen. So, so to put a just kind of final spin on this, I think it's consensus. You hire from the industry if you must. Yeah. Don't if you can. Like, bring them up yourself, right?
It's everything from, like what you guys are saying, culture, and having somebody that fits in with your culture, but also just having somebody that is eager and, ready to commit to, to a company the way the company commits to them.
Yeah.
And if you can find that person, then hold on to them with everything and give them as much as they're giving you. And that would be what I would say about that.
So what goes on in the Johnson household when it's post NFL season? I have to know. So should we share that you and your sister are actually on the web page, or are you still up there to the picture?
It still rotates.
Okay.
It rotates.
Which team?
Yes, for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So it'll rotate on the fan site, especially for like the women's apparel is the tag that you would have to go to. Yeah, and so we the funniest thing, so we were at a game and we were holding up terrible towels, and we are literally, you can tell in this picture that we are fighting for our lives against all these other fans for our spot, right? And so we're like, holding up the terrible towels, and we're screaming and everything. And we had no idea that they had taken this picture of us. And then like a month or two later, we go on Steelers.com to look for shirts, and Courtney started screaming. She goes, "Oh my God." We had no clue we were up there. And this is years later, and we will still see it every now and then. It's like on rotation, and it'll pop up, and I'm like, "That's." And nice. Just to further clarify, I got my Steeler tattoo. I don't know if you can really see it, but
you can see it.
No,
I grew up a Steelers fan, LaDonna. That was my team in the 70s. You know, they were great in the 70s, and I still like them. I've been a Panthers fan. I had tickets for 25 years.
Yeah,
don't have them anymore, but still love the Steelers. I mean, that's what I like about football: defense and running football. That's football.
Well, and the thing is we've had, I'll be the first person to tell you, I am not a huge Mike Tomlin fan. And it's, I think he has consistency with winning seasons, but in my opinion, I think they're mediocre seasons because we're one and done in the playoffs, and that's not Steeler football.
Yeah.
And so I'm not very happy with my team, but I still love them. It's kind of like, you know, that family member that gets on your nerves a lot of the times, but you still love them because they're family. And that's how I look at it. I am with them till the end, even when they make me mad.
That's awesome. No,
it's frustrating. Like that's the Panthers. I think we're moving in the right direction. They've been a frustrating franchise, but you know, the Steelers, that's legacy and history and greatness. And I get it. I know I have a lot of my friends I got a bunch of buddies that I play golf with and stuff. They're from the Pittsburgh area, and they're frustrated.
Yeah.
I
will never stop.
Yeah.
I pulled for them that season that we had 2 wins the entire season, and I was still out there like, go Steelers. But by God, it will be painful, and I will cry, and I still to this day cry every playoff game that we lose. When my season is over, I still sob. And that's okay. It never gets old.
Well, that's awesome. Well, LaDonna, thank you so much for coming on. This is really last minute too, so I appreciate you making time for us. Thank you for having a beer with us. This is, like I said, this is a fun thing we're doing, but it's starting to grow a little bit of legs, and I'm very excited. And there's more and more people. There's more and more people want to hang out with us, and the topics are coming. We are also last week we found out. Unknowingly, we had a celebrity on, and I was really kind of hoping. I thought that was going to be our launch moment, and it's still going to come around, I think. But we had a very, he was an MMA, the president of USA MMA, I think, and he was a UFC referee. And what an amazing interview! And actually, we were interviewing his wife, which she's awesome, Kelsey, and. It was just an amazing interview, but I want to do more, like not just heating and air stuff. So I do think a cooking podcast, one in the garage with just more than one beer. That's always fun, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, just as a suggestion, if you want to really have something that might play up females in the trade, have you guys looked at that HVAC chick? I think her name is Jennifer.
Yes. I'll tell you why, because I was looking for an influencer last year when I was peddling software, and I did. I researched her quite heavily, and yeah, you're right. I need to reach out to her. I'm sure she would love to come on.
I think I've seen her. She's on Instagram, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, she's a service technician, I believe, by trade, but she's really made a name for herself. It just as being a female in the industry, and she would be a really good person to talk to. I feel like, if you want to really play that up, trying to get more females into the trades.
No, absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you.
And I can always ask the man, the myth, the legend, Scott Logue.
Oh, that would be an amazing podcast. But that one we're doing around a fire with a couple of glasses that doesn't have beer in it, and we tell stories because there is lots of stories.
You want the stories? You need to get him, Daryl, and Leo in one thing.
Yes,
and it will have to be a 2-3 hour show.
Yes, and I'll tell you.
Well, at some point, we're fine with that.
Yes, we're good because that would be one that will blow up forever because we won't use names, but there'll be lots of stories.
Yeah,
it'll be so.
I was saying about it today. I know we've talked about having the Wilsons. That we need to have the Wilson brothers together.
Yep.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's put the official invite out to all 5 of those people. We want to get you all together. It'd be a lot of fun. So, LaDonna, thank you so much.
I just want to be there to witness. That's
Yes.
all I want.
No,
I
we'll
just
have
watch.
studio audience.
There you go.
So, well, thank you very much. Thanks for coming on. Will, buddy, you have any travel plans this week? Are you home?
No, we're just, like I said, I was out of the office all day yesterday, so it's been a hectic day.
Yeah.
LaDonna, we're transitioning from winter type stuff to everything spring related. It's like a major undertaking, and so that, and we got a couple calls tomorrow. My guy in Idaho, we're hoping we'll get a customer in Idaho. I've never been there, so I'm hoping we'll get a customer in Idaho.
Lots of potato farms. Lots of potato farms. So
yeah, so now I'm in town the rest of the week. I'm actually leaving. The missus and I are heading up to Kremlin in Virginia on Friday. So I'm excited about that. Just her and I.
Stop by the Trump Winery. I highly recommend it.
Okay.
I'll just leave it there. It's all
All right.
Well, thanks, guys. Have a great evening, and we will catch you guys next week.
Appreciate it.
Pleasure, LaDonna.
Thank you.
And we're done.